Just want to recognize some of my 20 Entrepreneur of the Decade. It's our last session, and I'm so happy that you guys have been so committed up until the last session. Amanda, it was so good to have you for the last past sessions, not even missed one. We're so grateful. We're happy that you've been with us, not just you, but all of you guys. I want to recognize you today, Catherine, Deveshni, Indrani. Oh my gosh, I'm reading up your names. Justin, Mbali. Thank you for keeping up, Mbali. I still remember the first session I said no excuses and no favors. And let me tell you what, you guys have been here up until the last session. Can I get a good morning and a welcome? Today it's our last session, so I'd just like to thank everyone from our delegates to our guests. And I want to say that we would provide all the presentations from the first session up until the last, as well as the recordings. If you don't get them from me, trust that Sakile also have them. All of them by the end of today, he will have everything. So in case you want to catch up, you want to start afresh, you want to remind yourself, please feel free. I just want to welcome all of you and say welcome to our last session on going digital. Today we have Wailing. Without wasting too much time, I'll probably talk more at the end of the session, but for now, I just want you guys to have so much fun. Good morning, and we have Wailing today. Wailing, can you please open up your video and let them see you, and we can begin the fun.
Thanks, Mbali. And again, from my side, welcome everyone to my session, Going Digital. I believe we're going to have a lot of fun today. I like to make it more interactive, and please don't feel shy. Put your hand up if there's any question. Please ask or share your experience as well. My session is usually quite interactive, and I want to hear in digital space, and that's open discussion as well. I think before I jump in, a little introduction of myself. And so my name is Wailing. I've been in the digital space for over 17 years now. And I've worked in different markets in the world, from Europe to Asia to Africa. And I've worked in big corporates, heading up the digital marketing, helping them digitize their businesses as well. And you'll be surprised when we get into conversations. You might think corporates are quite digital. You'll be surprised how conservative and non-digital they are still today. So I'm here really to share some of the experiences from my side, and to share some of the trends and the landscapes of digital, and really just to have a conversation with yourselves and see how some of these practices and apps and trends may apply to your business. So I think without any further ado, let me jump into it. I will be in presentation mode, and I'll have Mbali to help me with any of the questions or hands up that you might have during the process. Or, just shout if there's any questions, please. I don't mind being interrupted. Like I said, I want to keep it as interactive as a conversation as possible.
Thank you, Wailing.
Just going into presentation mode. So let me jump straight into it now. What I'll go through today is I'm going to start off with a bit of landscape. As you all probably know, we're slowly still coming out of COVID. I don't want to say we're out of COVID yet. We're slowly coming out of COVID, but what would be interesting, what I wanted to take everyone through is the digital landscape today in South Africa. What it actually looked like in the beginning of the year before COVID hit, and what it actually looks like today after COVID, and what are some of the spending patterns and the focus of consumers today, now that we've gone through COVID, and what that trend will be looking like. So let me go through a bit of the landscape. So as the South African digital landscape today, I mean, you can see the online population we've grown, we're sitting at 62% being online and 38% being offline. But offline doesn't mean they're totally not online. Offline just meaning they're much less online than the 62% of us. If you look at it from a device perspective, there's 73% people who's using a mobile and 27% on laptop and others. So this also gives us a very good indication that a lot of the digital interfaces or your digital shops or your websites really needs to be mobile first. So you're actually designing and creating a customer experience using your phone, the space that you have to play with. It's not like before you have a laptop or a desktop. You really only have the luxury of a mobile device screen size to make the most of it. And if you look at the time spent online, on average, people are spending 9.5 hours online. That's a bit scary, I must say. And I guess with lockdown and all of that.
Ling,
Yes.
sorry to disturb you. I'm getting messages that some delegates and some of our guests are not seeing your screen. Can you just maximize it and let's see what's happening?
I have.
Can everybody see the screen? I see Dawn and Cobus can't see anything. I can see the screen.
Good morning. Good morning, Wade. Good morning, Mbali. Mbali, I can see it almost seems like it's stuck on the introduction screen. It hasn't moved on to the screen that Wei-Ling is referring to, or the slide.
Oh,
yeah, that's better. Thank you.
We can see it now, Wei-Ling. Thank you. Thank you, Cobus.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Then what I'll do is I see there is a bit of delay when I change the slide. So I'll probably then just wait a little bit before I continue on a particular slide as I change slides. Would that be fine, Mbali? Just so that everyone can.
Yes, that would be perfectly fine, Wei-Ling.
All right. So very quickly, I'm just going to recap for what has happened. So apologies for that. If you look at, we're just looking at the population-wise, we do have 62% people who's online that you can actually capture when you go on online business. When you look at the devices, over 70% people are even more critical. I know we'll get into the conversation around app versus web, but this stat gives us a very good indication that when we do any design or create any digital interfaces, mobile we need to have that as the one and foremost on top of our head on what we're designing and how we're designing and the experience you're creating for your customers. Then last one is time spent online. You can see the split here, very interesting. So this really just gives an indication on what people are doing online. So in general, people are spending 9.5 hours online, and you can see the top 4 places that they're spending online is over 3 hours on social media, over 3 hours on TV, a lot of the streaming. I'm sure we all have been binging on Netflix one time or another during this lockdown. There's an increase on music, 1.5 hours on average on music, and about almost an hour on gaming. So this is more app gaming. This is not your professional gamers gaming kind of timing. So you can, at the bottom of the slide, you'll see there's a link. This report does come from this Digital 2020 South Africa report on which is provided by Hootsuite. Hootsuite and We Are Social, they collaborate every year to provide for every single country in the world on what their digital landscape looks like. So I basically pulled out the South African one, and you can use that link to actually drill into detail if you wish to after the session. I've moved on to the next slide. I guess if Mbali, can you check in the chat if everyone can just say that they have it in front of them so that we don't have a delay?
Yes, we do. We do.
Okay, great. So you'll see what's very well, big number, and I've cherry picked some of the stats just to show. It will feed into our conversation later, and I've gone through some of your businesses and the nature of your businesses. I think for entrepreneurs, definitely marketing is a big thing. Where can I sell more? Where can I market more? Where can I get more awareness from end users? So you're looking at 22 million South Africans who's on social media. And you can look at the most used social media in the stats. So this is a snapshot from the report itself. And you'll see obviously WhatsApp is the highest, but I would consider that as instant messaging more than it is social media. So you look at WhatsApp and Facebook Messenger as the two top instant messaging platforms that South Africans do use. And if you look at social media, you have YouTube first, Facebook, Instagram, and then Twitter as the top four. So this kind of can give you a clue on like, okay, where are my customers hanging out online? And then you can look at the type of audiences that allows you to better target your audience for your particular business. But what's interesting here is that you can see TikTok. I know everyone would once or twice seen TikTok or have TikTok or active on TikTok. It's the fastest growing platform, especially if you want to target the youth. It's a very good platform to be on. And it's very interactive, as you know, short form videos. But now what they've done, they've also activated social selling in a very big way on TikTok. We'll go into that a little bit. I have a intro of the social media section, so we can go a little bit into that as well. Moving on to the next slide. So this slide really shows another layer down from what we talked about on social media just now on how many people are interacting. Here, where do people find you? How do they get to know about new brands? So this also includes, this is above the line and below the line. So above the line meaning billboards and TV and, those little light pole posters as well. And then you have in-store and online. So TV still plays a big role. I mean, most of us probably all have DSTV or not. I mean, I personally don't have DSTV, but there is a lot of ads where everywhere you see on TVs itself as well, in store, at home. Search engines, and then you have social media. So you can see digital is really playing a very big role in the brand discovery. But we also need to keep in mind that because although so many people are on there, it's also quite cluttered. So there are means and ways in which we can make it quite easy or unique to be found, which we'll go into much detail into different categories, which I'll go through later. But it really just shows what are the top channels that you need to think about when you are advertising online or offline to reach the relevant audiences for your businesses. So this really gives you a nice indication on where most of the people are finding things. So this slide gives us a very nice view on what the e-commerce online spending is worth since in 2019 itself. $3.3 billion. That is a huge amount. And I wanted to pull this one out to show everyone, looking at your respective industries, that is the amount of money that people are spending online in South Africa. So as much as we're saying that, maybe there's the unbanked or people that doesn't have a credit card or doesn't know how to use online, still considering all of that considered, you can see that people are still spending. And there's a huge opportunity here to ensure that you also get a piece of that pie and what's available to actually go after in the various industries. So this is pre-COVID. This is at January 2020. We'll go through and then you'll see after COVID. And here I briefly touched on how they transact. This slide shows how they are purchasing. So credit card obviously stands the majority. There's cash. Interestingly enough with cash is that people are having the ability to transact online using cash, as there are new companies now that are on the market that actually sells online cash vouchers. So it works exactly like airtime. You go to a vendor and then you give them 100 rands. They give you a voucher in return, and then with a code. And then what you do is, if your online merchant in which you wish to purchase an item from has signed up as a merchant with this online cash vendor, you'll be able to using that cash voucher, say 100 rands, to pay for that particular item online through that merchant's online portal. So that's how cash transactions online is happening today. Then you have bank transfer, also relatively high, but if you've noticed that there's a new play in the market called Ozwa, they pretty advanced. They have linked up with all the banks, and then recently we launched a feature that allows you to do one click to payment. So basically what happens is, on checkout, you will then be asked to, just like how you log into your bank account online, and then having the ability to do an EFT transaction. But Ozwa is actually making it so much easier that you can do a one-click to payment through that model. Then you have e-wallet, also increasing. It's up and coming. MTN has launched e-wallets, mobile money, Momo, as they have it. You'll have Vodacom also having e-wallet coming out. So you can start seeing that this is a really targeting the space of the unbanked, and having to, if you partner with these providers, it will start slowly giving you, opening up your available market to you, who can actually transact from a financial perspective. And then you have other, which is probably cash on delivery or any other forms of payment offline from an online experience. So if we move on to after COVID, so where are we today? What do we look like today in South Africa when it comes to online spending? So if you look at here, obviously the one, I'm sure everybody knows this, groceries. Groceries has grown. Groceries has not gone down. I'm sure I get an online delivery for groceries. It took about 2 weeks for me to get a slot to get groceries delivered at home. So that's definitely is in a green, and you can see we all know why. But if you look at all the other categories, if you look at the black is the decrease in revenue for those respective industries. But what's interesting is, if you look at the blue, is how it's now increasing post-COVID. And if you look at the column where change since last survey, there are double-digit growths. So that means the economy is coming back. So it is definitely positive that people are bouncing back, businesses are bouncing back, consumers are bouncing back. And here we can see that, you can see the food takeout and delivery is bouncing back, two-digit, double-digit growths. Alcohol, I mean, we all know some of the debate around the alcohol. So that's bouncing back now nicely with the opening up again. Quick service restaurants, footwear. If you look at furnishings, I think people are all wanting to decorate their houses now. One of the sports equipment is another big industry that's bouncing back. So this report is really just to give you a view on how people are spending and what are the key industries or items that people are purchasing today. So if you look at the impact, so this is in July, the We Are Social and Hootsuite report released a July snapshot of online spending. So what you see here, this is not South African based. This is globally based. And then in October now, I think by the end of the month, they are due to release an October snapshot, which will then again gives us a good view of how things are post-COVID and with the economies all slowly opening up again. So in July, you're looking at sports equipment. I think we all try to still keep fit at home and keep healthy and exercise. So sports equipment went shot up quite significantly, as you can see. Supermarkets, absolutely. We're all ordering online and getting food delivered at home. And then what I've noticed is that there's a lot of new online food shops or businesses that are coming online, from ready-made frozen foods to grocery items to dry foods, and all sorts of cuisines are coming online as well. So there is one I saw yesterday quite interesting. It's called Oishi, which actually I love sushi. So they actually, you can order these very sophisticated, really cool looking sushi and then deliver it at home. They currently only operate in Cape Town in South Africa. So this shows that people are opening up food business online that focuses on delivering food to your home, but still giving you that experience as if you will go to the restaurant, and that quality as well as you receive it at home. So we see that shift in the market on that front. Then you have retail tech. I think this contributes to a lot of us working from home, kids homeschooling. We need that extra devices or setup at home, or just people spending more time at home and wanting to be online. So the retail tech is also really coming up. People wanting to have Wi-Fi and fiber and things like that. Home furnishings and DIY, I think, to kill time. The amount of videos that are also posted online on home DIY crafts and things like that has increased significantly during the COVID period as well. So this stats comes with no surprise. Cosmetics is a surprising one. I mean, we're all at home, we don't really go out, but I guess we still want to look good. So we do see that from the stats, we can see that cosmetics has also increased over this period. So, I mean, I won't go into every single one of them, but I think the top ones gives you a view of people's lifestyles now during COVID, and gives you a view on like what people need. What is the pain? How has the pain point shifted from people's needs, from what we know as normal to now what we know as the new normal? So these stats really is very, very and market, reevaluating your market, and how should you be doing a product shift or a business shift due to the shift of the consumer behavior and the consumer needs. So if I can end the landscape section here and leave this with you, is your digital business is only as strong as your technology stack in the digital economy. So I believe strongly in this, so I wanted to share this statement with everyone, is that everyone has to digitize their business. So it's not about whether you have a website or not, whether you have a social media handle or not. It's about where are you taking your business and how do you digitize your business? Because if you want, as entrepreneurs, we are thin. I mean, myself, I'm an entrepreneur now as well, running my own little consulting businesses right now, is that, I'm one person. I can't do everything. So what do I do then? How do I still grow my business? It's then the word automation would come into mind. Can I use technology to automate certain things in my business so that I can focus on the things that I need to focus on? So that's why this is where the comment comes, is that if you want to go digital, especially if you go e-com, your digital business is only as strong as your technology stack in the digital economy. How do you give people the instant gratification that they're looking for? I've recently worked with one of my clients who's a coffee business who is refreshing themselves and going online. And he's one person and he's not digitally savvy at all. So we helped him set up his e-com store. We've designed his front end. We've set up his payment gateway. We even set up his social media and even building his database of customers and giving and designing customers experience along the way. And by not having to, we didn't have a developer. Yes, we had a designer, just because there's logo design, which we need a designer. And we put in we designed an entire technology stack for him. And the technology stack, to give you a view, and this is to give you a view on what's available today, is that it's not costing him more than 2,000 rands a month for the entire stack to automate his entire coffee business, from receiving an order, working with third parties, sending an email of tracking, sending newsletters to his customers, and getting reporting and a real-time view of his business in all the data that's collected. And he's a one-man show. So now he's actually running it, and he's really not. So the whole stack, with just using what's available in the market, is not costing him more than 2,000 rand. So that is possible, to make sure that you are digital and to string a technology stack for your business, no matter how little or how small or how big your business is. So I'm just gonna see how much time. I want to give the floor back to yourselves a little bit, and then and see if there's any questions or any thoughts that you have that we can start our conversation on.
Come on, somebody. Any thoughts? Oh, Wei Ling, we had a question from, or rather, please clarify, from Olani. Oh, let me just take Paul. Paul has his hand up. Go ahead, Paul.
Okay. So I've just stopped sharing for a little bit so that we can have the conversation.
Paul?
Paul?
You can go ahead.
Hello, Paul.
Hi, Paul. I can see you. I recognize you. You can go ahead. Just open your mic. Okay, it looks like Paul is struggling. Do we have anybody else? Questions, comment, input?
And Bali, it's Amanda.
Hi, Amanda. Go ahead.
Good, thanks, Kate.
Good.
It's such an interesting session. Thank you so much. I own an ice cream business, and we make really beautiful ice cream cakes. And I spend so much of my time dealing with customers on WhatsApp, taking orders for ice cream cakes. And I keep thinking that it's something that we need to become digital with, so they can go online and place orders without using up so much of my time. But what holds me back at the moment is I feel people want that personal interaction, and I'm interested to know your opinion on that. Would you agree with that, or is that something that you think that we could get around?
I think I agree with both the comments, but it's about, my opinion is you need to find the right balance. In your line, I mean, I read your profile. I think it's very interesting, the whole ice cream business. I mean, I'm a big fan of ice cream. If you want to bribe me, ice cream is it. So I think there's so much potential, Amanda, in your business, because of the uniqueness of what you do. No one cake is the same, and you can't have one cake. There's no one size fits all in your business.
Yeah.
Because all your customers are different for different likes, dislikes, events, So, but what would be interesting is for your business when you go digital is about the content you create. giving people an inside view of your kitchen. How are you making these things? Showing them how the ice cream comes from. How do you actually make the cakes? Short form videos to actually get them thinking, or giving them more insights into training their eye to see beautiful cakes. And then showcasing them on your website. And perhaps instead of you spending a lot of time on every single customer on your WhatsApp, is perhaps here's a catalog of a base. So what is the common denominator that you see across all the customers that you deal with today? And how can you then digitize the common denominator, which then and whatever you have digitized on that is time that you freed up for yourself to focus other things. So I would recommend to start there, to start seeing what that common denominator. It could be as simple as, you can have maybe WhatsApp, you can have a little bot, right? To say, okay, name, surname, contact details. Do you want a square cake or a round cake? You want 1 layer or 2 layers? Sorry, I might be very rudimentary here, please excuse that. So some of the basic questions that people always ask you, and so that you can automate that process, so that when it comes to you, it's about the customization. I want a Pokemon cake instead of a Cars cake, as an example. Then you can have that type of conversation with the customers. I think that's a better use of your time too.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Wei Ling. And I'll just read up some questions from the chat box. There's a comment from Lianka, says, many thanks for the insights. Please share your company details. Yeah, we'll share, Lianka. Should we wish to utilize your services to digitize in our respective spaces? Then Dawn says, it's a question. When you're shopping for digital services, I've found some hugely different price structures and advice out there. How do you make sure you're getting good value for the services offered?
Wow, Dawn, this is a tough question. So for me, in my opinion, it's up to the business owners on whether you're getting a good value or not, or up to the consumers to evaluate on the value that you're getting for the services offered. But I think one of the key things that one needs to remember with how a consumer would define something as good value is the experience that they're getting. You might have a lot of competitors out there, but the experience makes the difference. If you sincerely and passionately care about your customers, they will feel it, even though if it's digital. Show them that you are different by experience, so they're not comparing you to price. I can't comment really on price. If we look at the price point, there will always be someone who's trying to maybe undercut you, or you might not always be the lowest, but it's your experience that you offer to the customer that's going to define the value on which the customer whether sees it as acceptable or not. And also instant gratification, especially in the digital age, if you couple that with instant gratification. Now, when I say instant gratification, it's not about somebody messages you right now and you must respond in the next second. It's not about that. It's about responding with the correct information and within a reasonable time frame. Now, somebody messages you, if you message back within 30 minutes or an hour, that is relevantly acceptable and can be counted as somewhat near real time or near instant gratification, which you can still hook on the customers in that sense. I hope that has helped answer your question somehow.
I'll give it to Cobus. Has his hand up before I read another question on the chat box.
Hello, Cobus.
Go ahead.
Thanks, Marley. Just and really to pull the Wei Ling, to pull the discussion down to the basics. You referred to a digital stack in the quote that you showed. Just maybe define that for me and tell me what are the essential basic components of what that stack should look like, etc.
Good question, Cobus, and I think that's definitely what I'm going to be going through in the next couple of slides. that will answer that question. We'll go through a framework that shows what that stack is made up of, and then we'll also go through some of the apps or platforms, technology platforms that is available today, and what are the considerations on which ones to pick so that you can design one that is unique for your business going forward. So if you don't mind, can I answer that question by going through the rest of the slides for the session?
And there, I thought it was a stupid question, so thanks very much.
No question's a stupid question. I'm glad everyone's asking questions. Thank you, Kobus.
Okay, Wadling, I'm going to read this last one from Lianka, and then we can go ahead, we can proceed. So Lianka is asking, what are your thoughts on an app versus a website if you're wanting to move into an e-commerce space? And maybe you're still going to go through that as well. I just wanted to go through this one and then let you continue.
Yes, I will be going through that. So Lianka, I will address that as we get to that section. Don't worry, I've actually allocated time for us to spend a little bit on that app versus a website. I think it's a very important question that you've asked there. And then I can see the chats, Bali. So for Deveshni, for your social media, we will also touch on that through the session. So it's a big conversation. It's a big discussion. So I would like to leave it for a little bit later, if you don't mind.
And before you just proceed, Wadling,
yes.
Because you might miss this one, you had said it earlier. Olani had asked, please repeat the name of the one payment system. It sounded like Oswald. I hope I'm reading it well.
Yes, that's correct. It's called Ozwa, O-Z-O-W.
Oh, Ozwa. Okay.
Yes, Ozwa. And then just to give a little insight on, I think everybody will be interested on, if you do want to explore that payment gateway, it's currently offering 12 months of free transactions for small businesses at this point. So I would encourage all of you to look into it and see if it's something that is applicable to your business, as it's without the transaction fees, it will really help you on encouraging users and your price points on your businesses online. Okay, so I see a lot of these questions. We will address all of them as we go along. Please hold on to them. And if it doesn't fully address your questions, let's have that conversation as we get to that section. So I've got your question, Vanusha. So, but I'm going to move on just a okay. Let me just share my screen again. Okay, there we go. So we've touched on briefly that customer experience is key, and I cannot say that enough. You'll hear me as a broken record throughout the session. Is customer experience is key, is if not king, in the online world, because you don't see your customers face to face. You don't know how they feel. You're not having the conversations with them physically. So you have to depend on the digital experience that you create for them that should also be personal for them, that they can relate to. So that's very, very important. And here I wanted to share this as a customer journey, so the foundations of creating the customer experience, or breaking down the big word customer experience. So what is customer experience made of? It's made up of the journey in which you are going to put your customers through. So here, you're looking at awareness, you're looking at once the customers is aware of your brand, they will then want to consider your brand. You want them to consider it. So what are the things you need to do to allow them to consider your product or your brand? And then after they've considered it, you want them to buy from you. And then you've got to make it very easy again when they want to buy from you. And then service. So after they bought it, what kind of service can you offer them? Because this counts a lot, you know. If you want customers to return, you want returning customers, because they're so much cheaper the cost of sale of getting a returning customer versus a new customer There's no comparison. And then by providing a good service, you want to naturally start building their loyalty. And that's where the word of mouth, you start building your community, you start engaging on a very personal and deep level of your customers. And lastly, if you've done all of these steps right, you have yourself an advocate from the customer, where they will actually sell your product and your brand on your behalf because you're just so fantastic. I'm sure we've all had experiences with a certain brand during our lifetime. Say, that's the only brand that you'll go with. You're so loyal, you will not go with anything else. And anybody who asks you about something, you are going to promote that brand. So that is true advocacy if you've got all of those, the first 5 steps right. So what I've done at the bottom, you'll see, is some of the channels, digital channels or content that you can consider when you are tackling these different steps of the customer journey. So from awareness, you can use social media, search, SMS, email, or programmatic. That's programmatic ads. You know, these ads when you visit websites like news sites or e-com sites or whichever sites that you visit online. You know, you might have visited a site and looked at e-com and looked at a product, and now this darn ad is just following you everywhere you go. It's like, you know, it's crazy. And that's programmatic, and that's your display ads, and Google's quite famous for that. And then from a consideration perspective, you want to already start driving people to your website already at this point, because that's where all your information or your content of your business and your products would be outlined. So you can do it in the form of blogs, you can do review, and you want reviews. But that's a double-edged sword, reviews. So unless you're extremely confident that you're going to get mostly positive, or confident in the sense of your product and the service that you offer, then you can definitely have reviews, and users would appreciate that. And then obviously in that case, you will need to have a plan in place to say, if there is negative comments, what do I do and how do I manage that? So it's not a train smash to have negative. Sometimes it's a good thing, because then other customers can see how you handle that. How do you turn that around? How do you make sure that you cater to your customers, showing that you care about your customers and that they are the center of your business? Videos, people don't like to read these days. So videos has been 30-second videos, maximum 60-second videos are usually the golden timing for a video, and it needs to be quick, sharp, punchy, and straight to the point, and it cannot sell. So you got to tell a story. It's all about storytelling. If you start selling, people get disinterested. So but very effective. Then you have infographics. Infographics are also very powerful. You're turning words into pictures, and people love that. And especially for sharing, or sharing on social media, when you share a post of infographics, that's also quite effective in that sense. And then on your website, comparisons. So you'll see a lot of businesses, they either have like a tiered comparison of their own offerings, or you have websites or businesses, what they do is, I'm not scared of my competitors. Let me put my competitors' information on my website, and I'm going to do a table form of comparing the two to demonstrate to the customers that I am better, or I have more to offer to them than my competitors. So consideration is that's the step of consideration. Once they've considered, you've done the good job, now they want to buy. Now, purchasing is from my experience, is quite a science-based journey. If you make it too tedious, you'll get a lot of drop-off. If you make it too simple, you may not be you might not be capturing enough information that helps you build the understanding using the data from the customer in the purchase stage either. So what I mean is, what kind of information are you going to capture during the purchase process? So, I mean, there is the payment gateway information, but there is also, you can take the opportunity to start building the customer database of your business through this step as well, because we do need to be compliant with POPI, with GDPR. These are quite important things that we need to keep in mind these days. And that's really very critical on the purchasing stage. But then also, you don't want to dictate to the customers where they can buy. You need to have the options. This is where you want to kind of like be everywhere. So you want to maybe give them the option, say, if you see me on social media, if you have engaged with me on social media, you can complete your purchase on social media. So you have social selling. Most e-commerce websites can integrate with social media, and then you can actually complete the transaction on the social media app or the website. And so not having to push them to having to go to another place. Website, very straightforward, or via a live chat or chatbot. So if you are having a conversation with someone on WhatsApp, you want to be able to give them the ability that they can actually transact on WhatsApp, and then you complete the purchasing and you've now got revenue. Or you have developed an app and everything happens on your app. So this phase, a little bit more technical, but also very critical to make sure that you give the customers enough choice of where they can buy. Give them that power. The next one is when you're servicing to your customers, now you know who the customers are. I think what's critical here, and this goes back to what I've mentioned earlier about collecting enough information about your customers, knowing when they first bought from you, when did they buy again, what products did they buy or service did they buy, how are they using the product, how are they utilizing your service. These are very, very key information, because when it comes to servicing, I mean, I'm sure we've all had experience. For me, it's actually quite frustrating every time if I have to call somebody. I call the IVR and they ask me for my ID number, they ask me to verify myself, and then when I get to an actual human being, the person asks me to do the same thing again. It is the most annoying thing on the planet. I'm sure everybody can relate to that. So connecting your customer database and their behavior and how they are utilizing your services or product is very, very key. Then you start giving that personalized service where you pick up the phone and this person, the human being, says, "Dear Mr. Smith, thank you for calling us. How can I help you today?" It just makes your day. It just makes the conversation so much better. In India, the banks has evolved to a point where you have a registered mobile number, just like we do here. But when you call the call center with that registered mobile number, they will immediately route you. If you have a dedicated banker, it will immediately route your call to the banker. Or if a call center agent picks up, they will immediately know that you are XYZ, you have been verified. Process where on average in South Africa it takes us anywhere like, if we're lucky, 5 minutes, unlike, yes?
Sorry to disturb you. I've been monitoring your network bar and it keeps on cutting and making this funny sound. So if maybe you can switch off your video, because I think it's important what you're saying more than us seeing you. Sorry. So that we maintain the network.
No, perfect. Let me switch off my video. Not a problem. Okay. There you go. Perfect. Okay. I'm looking at the time as well, everyone. Let me finish the slide and then we'll go into a bit of a break so everyone can stretch their legs and get a cup of coffee, water, and all of that. So on the service, so that's why I'm staying on service for a little bit longer than the others. It's just that I think it's really, really key, and that's how you're going to get returning customers for your business. So if we move on to loyalty, I think loyalty comes with service. If you can get service right, you've got half of loyalty right. And the other half of the loyalty we can look at is, you know, what are we going to have? Are you going to have loyalty points? Are you going to give discounts just because the person's buying a third time you? And then these can be communicated and engaged in the form of on your social media again. You can have a members section on your website. You can send emailers to those users. And we'll touch into emailer a bit later on how you can customize that and make it personalized and automated at the same time. And then or do surveys. Constantly do surveys. I think sometimes we are a bit shy. Businesses are shy on doing surveys. And I don't think we should be, because whether it's good or bad, it's good to know. Because without knowing, we cannot improve our businesses. And you want to have guest bloggers, customers who has enjoyed your product, your service so much. Ask them to write not just a testimonial, ask them to guest blog something. How have they used your service or product in such an innovative way that you actually want to share it with all of your other customers, and in this way you start building a community amongst all your customers. And then lastly, I mentioned earlier, advocacy. There's nothing you can do when it comes to advocacy. It is the only thing you can do is make sure that your 5 steps is impeccable, it is seamless, it's great, and then you are nurturing your customers to become your advocates. They will be quite automatic to, self-motivated to promote your brand, to promote your service, and talk about you to all their networks. And that's how you're going to achieve advocacy. I'm going to stop here and give everybody a break, so you can stretch your legs, and do your thing, and then we'll reconvene in let's say 9:05. Mbali, is that okay?
That is perfectly fine, and I see Lianka is already on, so we already know that we have a session before we go to our stretch.
Hi guys, can you?
Perfectly fine.
Perfect. We're gonna do some jumping jacks today. So I want you to move your chair back and just have a little bit of space. And then when you're ready, we'll get into it. So we're gonna go in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Perfect. See you all after the break.
Thank you so much, Lianka. We'll see you guys at 9:05. Thank you, Lianka and Wailing.
Hello, everyone. I hope everyone is back. Let's restart again. So before the break, we were talking about the customer journey, and also now, and I wanted to say there's a framework, and it's the framework of the technology stack. I think specifically to your question, Quibus, this is a framework this doesn't say which apps, but the purpose of this framework is to really showcase, what is the stack made up of, and when you do start looking at apps, where does the app slot in, and how does it all come together? So look at this as a digital business strategy on a slide. On top, you can put the ambition of your business. Where do you see your business want to become in the next 5 years, 10 years? And everything underneath it is really, what do you need to do to actually achieve that ambition of your business? At the same time, it forms the framework of your business in this digital time. So if you look at, you have the 4 big categories, the 4 pillars that will ultimately not change, or in my opinion, in my view, it doesn't change. You have platforms, you have design system, you have digital media and channels. So platforms, as you can see here, it's made up of automation, CRM, project management, so very much in-house. So what happens in your house? What does your house look like? Your business looks like? And all the technology that's up your house and makes your house run. So see it as, perhaps maybe another example is your plumbing and your electricity of your house. And that's what platforms essentially is. Once you have your platforms in place, you'll need a design system. I know design system might sound like a big word, but it's quite critical. It involves all your creative assets, like your logo. What is your brand? What does your brand stand for? The templates. So templates in the sense that let's say PowerPoint template, or a letterhead template, or for social media purposes, what is those imagery templates where you can spend once with a designer, and the designer creates the templates for you, and image of the text, and then you have another new image that you can post onto social media, or even a template for your website imagery. And then assets, lastly, is starting to create a photography library or imagery library, be it illustration or real life photography, but you start having those assets in your stable, where then helps you to fast track a lot of the creative designer type elements. To give you an example, I'm going to spend a little bit of time on this, because this is usually where I find, when I work with a lot of my clients, this is sometimes where their pain points are, is that they work with designers, and the pain point is where, how do I manage the designer? How do I get them not hold me to ransom? And I don't need to be dependent on them. I want to be independent. I don't want to be dependent on them. Here, what I do with my clients is, I've got a designer that I always use. And the objective of using the designer is to not lock the customer in, is to create enough assets for the customer to be independent. So things like a brand guide. I know another scary term. We shouldn't overthink what a brand guide is. A brand guide is basically what it is, like, which fonts do you use for your brand? What are the colors of your brand? What are the do's and don'ts of when it comes to using your logo? How do you do co-branding? What are the templates or the guidelines around the creative templates? What does your photography or illustration library look like? So really guidelines to guide you to have the freedom to use any designer you want. And they should be able to provide you the outcome as closely as possible from the original designer who actually created your logo or your brand initially. So that's really key. And then providing you with the open files. So you need to manage your own open file assets, meaning your illustration files or your Photoshop files, that allows you to provide that to your other designers in future. So you choose whoever you choose to use, and you don't have to always go back to the same designer. So that gives you also the freedom to make sure that you're also keeping the designers on their toes and getting the most value out of the money you are investing in this section. So that's the design element of it. If you go through that one process once, it becomes easier and easier, and then you'll find most of my clients becomes more confident at the end, knowing that they have everything and they're in control. They're not held or being locked in by a particular designer. I'm not saying all designers do this, but just from a lot of the clients I've dealt with, this is one of the common issues that I hear coming up with them. And then you have digital media meaning advertising. Now, I know, Paul, you've also mentioned advertising. You've congratulations on going viral with the video. It's very impressive on your outcome and results. It's fantastic. So this part really talks about the advertising. So here it's about campaigning. It's about where do you spend your money and how do you get the most out of your money that you invest in advertising. So here we talk about return on investment, and this needs to be all defined upfront. Just because you spent 1,000 Rand doesn't mean you're going to get 10,000 Rand revenue in return. It's a funnel. I'm sure all of you know it's a funnel. So you're going to spend 1,000 Rands, and you might get 10,000, maybe 5,000 views. And then out of the 5,000, you might get 50 people who click. And out of the 50 people that clicks, you might have then, at the end of the day, 5 people who actually buy something. So the funnel gets smaller and smaller and smaller. I'm trying to debunk a myth where people think digital is cheap. Digital advertising is not cheap. But if you know the tricks of the trade, if you know how the algorithms or how the platforms work on where you're advertising, then yes, you might be able to exploit it a bit more than your average person. And that's generally what agencies do. But again, things that we can do as ourselves as entrepreneurs, and we don't have to 100% rely on agencies to do this. So here I would recommend, depending on the nature of your business, you need to pick the right platforms and the right networks. It doesn't mean that just because you're on all the platforms doesn't mean you are going to achieve your objective. It's really evaluating and understanding the networks in which you want to invest in. Do they have the right audiences? And who is on there? What are people reacting to? So those are all info that you can easily find online. Like, for example, if let's say we use Facebook as an example. In Paul's case, what you could do before you do a campaign, you could go to Facebook audience. So there's a tool called Facebook audiences where you can put in, like, I'm looking for people in South Africa who is between the age of 25 and 35 who are interested in XYZ. How many people can I actually target? It will give you all of that information, and it will tell you the male-female split, age group, what are their interests, what are the pages they're following, geographic locations. So it gives you a lot of insights before you make a decision, for you to make a decision whether this is the right platform or not. Twitter, it gives you that same insights as well. As you know, Instagram has merged with Facebook, so you can use the Facebook audiences as one. And if you look at Google, you will get some insights from Google as well. That's a little bit more difficult to find, but it is out there. There's no set report that I can find on that at this point that gives me that final view. It's more of a looking at different reports and then correlating it accordingly to that. But one of the tools I can share with you from that front is SimilarWeb. SimilarWeb. as in Word. And then that tool really gives you, if you type in any websites in this world, any website, it will give you a high-level view of how many people is visiting the website per month, how many of them are unique, what is the bounce rate, how many page views, how long they're on the site, top 3, I think 3 or 5 traffic sources where traffic is coming from predominantly. So those high-level information you can get. So you can also look at your competitors on how they're performing. So that's quite a useful tool. And then if we move on to channels. So for now, channels are social media, web, or app. So it could evolve in the future. We're already looking at AR, VR as channels, but they are less common. But there are channels that are up and coming, which we cannot ignore, that we do need to just keep an eye on to see how they're evolving, so that when the time is right, and when possible, to include that as part of your business as another digital touch point with your customers. Here with social media, with web and app, I think it's quite key. Website is your home. It is just like when you have a shop, that's brick and mortar, but website is the digital version of your shop. We had a question earlier about web versus app. App, I'm not against app, but I see app as usually a phase 2. I recommend it as a phase 2 of your business in the digital space, because app needs investment. You need engineers or developers to help you develop that. You got to know where to host it. You got to manage the different versions of the app. One for Apple, one for Android, and then there's other operating systems such as the iOS that is coming out for the more low-end handsets, or proprietary operating systems that it's just becomes an impossible job for a small business to keep up of that with all of the different operating systems of the phones that are available. And where do you and managing the hosting or the housing of these apps on the different app stores. So I see that as a phase 2, where your business has grown to the point where an app makes sense. But in the beginning, I would recommend a web, or at most what we call a web app. So websites are easy. You design a mobile first approach, using a mobile first approach, and to make sure that it is mobile friendly. It will behave just like an app, right? So you can design it just like an app, but and it's easy to deploy. There are many tools which allows you to just drag and drop. You don't need to code. So the whole no code concept starts coming through. And then if you do choose to go the app route, another option to a full-fledged app is what we call a web app. What that is basically, it's still an app icon on your phone. You can download it via the App Store, so you can have it there as an app. But that app, from a size perspective, this is another important point, is that a generic app nowadays, on average, when you download, is what, 50 megs, 100 megs, usually 10 or 15 meg to start off with. People don't have the data. Data is a problem in this country already. So asking someone to use data to download an app, which already costs them money before they even start using your app, is already a barrier to entry. Whereas if you have a web app, it's still an app to download, but it will be no more than 2 megs. So you are lowering your barrier of entry from an adoption and usage perspective. And with a web app, it's the back end. So once you launch the app on your phone, everything is just like a web. It's what we call HTML based. So it will go fetch the content from the servers in the back and present it. So you don't have the issue of different app versions having to update your applications on an ongoing basis and then re-uploading it onto the App Store and then having the users to have to update or refresh the app on an ongoing basis. So web app really overcomes a lot of those barriers of entry. So in the beginning, that's really my recommendation around using a website, a mobile first website, or a web app. So this was a quick go-to-market, a quick launch, with minimal investment. And then on the social media front, I know, and again, with a lot of, this comes from a lot of conversations with clients I've dealt with, everybody wants to be everywhere. My view is be the master of one, then being a master of none. So social media is a very expensive channel, in a sense that, if you take Facebook, for example, if it's organic, meaning you don't spend money, you can only get 2% of your followers to see your post. Just because, say you have 1,000 people following you, that doesn't mean you post something and all 1,000 people is going to see it. Facebook has an algorithm to make sure that only 2% of the people see it because they want you to spend on advertising. So you got to decide on the right channels. Even with Instagram, same thing. So in your newsfeed, you're probably only going to hit 2% of your followers, whoever follow you on Instagram. Twitter, a little bit different. Obviously, Twitter is much more work in the sense that it's in the moment. So I think as things are happening, and it's a whole science behind hashtags and using the hashtags to get into a conversation or to start a conversation. So Twitter is very much about doing conversations. It works great for events. So as you're at an event and you want to start a conversation, you use Twitter as in the moment as things are happening. So that's a great channel for that scenario. And then obviously you have like LinkedIn, where it's more B2B and it's about sharing thoughts. It's a whole thought leadership platform. And here, I think the one thing I would recommend is, be the voice of your business. Don't use your business page to talk about your thoughts or talk about your knowledge or use that to share your knowledge. I think as the CEO of that business, link yourself to that business page and be the voice of your business brand, because people don't want to talk to brands. People want to talk to people. So as you can post on your business page, but at the same time, have the conversation as the CEO or the founder or the director of your business through the LinkedIn channel. So the next slides, I'm going to show you app universe, what the app universe looks like today, of the apps that I have personally used and implemented for my clients. Obviously, it's a snapshot, it's a cherry pick. Today, it's literally a drop in the ocean on what I'm going to show you, but it's the different categories that's important, that one should not forget and should always use when you start evaluating new apps or existing apps to find the right one for you, and using then this stack framework to plug in the apps that would be suitable for your business and to help your business digitize. Here is the app universe. Like I said, it's not everything, but these are the things that I have personally used, and I thought it would be good to share with you, and we can deep dive a little bit into these, which gives you an idea of what's available out there. So some of you might know some of these, some of them might be new for you, and for the ones, as we go through these apps in the next couple of slides, what I would really like you to do, and I want to keep it interactive after this, is that if you've used any of the apps, share your experience on how you've used it, how did you find it. I think the whole group will benefit from that, and then I'll also obviously talk about in detail on some of the apps and their pros and cons and some of the evaluation criteria for identifying the right app for your business. But here, the takeaway for this slide, I think, is look at the categories. So you want to know analytics. Analytics is so important. You want to have that view from an analytics perspective on how your business is performing. And that's the beauty of digital. You can know in real time whether a campaign that you've run is working or not working. How is people interacting? What are people saying? Analytics is going to give you that view. You want e-commerce, so you want to start selling online. But then when you sell online, which e-commerce platform should I use? Which one is suitable for my business? So that we will go into that discussion as well. Then you have websites. We just touched on, web or app, websites. So nowadays website can be easily done. It doesn't need you don't need a developer, you don't need a designer to the website. There's so many ready-made templates available which you can tweak quickly, which cuts your time and your cost of launching a website into market so much, make it so much faster, and it makes your business real the minute you have a website. Creative management, there are apps and tools which will make you a designer, and we'll go through some of those. I've shared some of my personal favorites here. And then you have project management. I think key here on project management is how do you not just communicate and project manage internally with your teams, but also with your external parties that help you develop. Either it's a development or delivery or creative. I think that's all quite important to make sure that everyone's talking to everyone, and basically to cut email. I'm not a fan of email. I get too many emails, and I try to cut them down by having, say, a Slack or like here, project management. All I say is project management, but Slack is one. Trello, Monday, there's Asana, which will go into that, which really helps. It has cut my email amount down to like almost 50% when I work with my clients. And to make sure that we have version tracking, the right documents. I'm not scruffling everywhere for documents in different versions. So that really helped a lot on that front. Then you have custom integrations. When you have all of these apps, the other question might pop up is, how do they all talk to each other? Now the whole notion of API, integration, developer, I don't understand any of it. And I don't expect you to as an entrepreneur. I'm a marketer. I'm not a developer. I don't know how to code. But with these apps, Zapier, if this then that, this really changed my life in a sense that I don't need a developer unless it's like really, really customized things. In general, to have one app talk to another and automate certain business processes. These apps has really helped make a difference in my life to make things much easier and better, and I don't need a developer to do so. And we'll talk, and obviously all of this we'll go through later. Payment rail. Depending on payment rail you prefer. So there's PayFast, there's Yoko, there is Ozwa that I talked about. There is, the cash vouchers that are coming through. So this is the part where it's continuously growing. And then you have workflow automations. This is where marketing automation is one of the topics at hand here. I think MailChimp is more the mainstream. I'm sure most of you have heard about MailChimp and the automation behind that. So if a person has signed up to a newsletter, automatically send an email to that person on certain content. And if this person then has engaged with social media, let me send this person an email. So that type of automation, so that you don't have to do that manually, which is extremely time consuming. Earlier we also talked about customer management. Where are you going to store your customer data and your customer database? Here are some of the apps that are quite useful in that sense. And then lastly, the last category is business intelligence. So this is what we talked about once. Yes, you have the analytics, but how do we make meaningful decisions using the analytics and the data that we've captured throughout all of these, not just the analytics, but all of these different categories? How does it all come together? And there are tools that helps you bring that together and see that in real time. So I'm going to start jumping into the individual apps of the different categories. So the interaction starts now. Please, speak your mind, share your experiences, and I would love to hear some of your experiences as well. I might even learn a thing or two. But I'm going to start with explaining, just give a quick definition of these different apps. and what they do, what the do's and don'ts, what they're good for, and I'd like to hear your views thereafter. So let's get started here. So building your business online, Wix and WordPress. I know there's plenty others. There's Squarespace, there is what's it, Drupal, there is Weebly, there's GoDaddy, there's a whole host of different ones out there. But these two are the ones that I've personally used. So Wix, I love Wix in a sense that it's so simple yet powerful. And it's literally drag and drop. It has a whole photography library. It has pre-built forms. It's got customer databases. It can do e-commerce. It's got the e-commerce framework already built in. I can literally spin up a website. Let's say in my past life, when I was working for a corporate, is that I spun up a website, a full-fledged website with registration, blogs, information for an event. On Wix overnight because my agency couldn't do it for me. They were going on with a whole bunch of processes and time was cutting short, and I built one and launched it in literally in a couple of hours. And then you have WordPress on the other hand. So WordPress, if you look at it right now, just WordPress on its own, it might be a little bit daunting for some of us. It was definitely daunting for me. But then I found, you see the D next to the WordPress logo? That's called Divi. Divi has been a fantastic tool, which gives you a similar experience to that of Wix. So also drag and drop, but in the WordPress environment. So you can drag a button, you can drag an image, you can drag a form, you can drag a drop-down list, and etc., which makes it so much easier. And it has a lot of templates in which you can choose from. You can choose one that's closest to your business and make modifications or customizations, and probably within a week or two, boom, your website is now done. And just makes life so much easier. So I'm going to hand the platform to the group, to all of you, to share if you have anything to share on this particular category.
Ailing, we already have the chat going on the side, on the chat box. So if people don't mind, can they just open their mics and let us in? Yes, Patricia. Patricia, I see your hand is up.
Hi, Patricia.
Hello. Hello.
Hi, Patricia.
Hi. Sorry, my sound had to load first here on this system. Anyway, I had a question regarding one of the statements you made on don't be afraid of your competitors, and put on your a comparison between yourself and your competitor on your website or whatever. My question is, wouldn't that really upset the competitor, and wouldn't that be seen as defaming or trying to badmouth your competitor to gain an advantage over them? How would that be viewed legally?
So on that, thank you for the question, Patricia. It's a valid one. And when I say that, let me clarify a bit more on my comment. When I say don't be afraid of your competitor and do the comparison, feel free to do the comparison on your website. You got to do it in a tasteful way. If I'm hoping I'm using the right word. So we're not there to defame them. It's there to just showcase the customers, to say that and be factual about it. And you're not giving emotional feedback or comments or opinions on your website. You're merely saying that this is the features of my product, this is the features of my competitor's product, right? And using the facts of that to showcase to the customer how your product might have extra features that will help the customers that you are targeting. So it's not to say that they are worse off. It's you're just comparing a fact to a fact. So I think we need to just be careful on that front to not tread into area that you've just described. So that's really what I meant when I said, don't be shy to compare with your competitors. There's many websites that actually do that today, but they do it extremely factually. Does that answer your question, Patricia?
It does, especially in the current climate where sensitivity is so high, and naming and shaming can be seen for anything that whether it's intended that way or not. But thank you very much.
Very valid point. Thank you, Patricia.
Leanka's hand is up. Leanka?
Hi, Wei-Ling. I'm really enjoying today's session. I just wanted to touch base again on the app versus a website. And so if you wanted a functionality of, for example, like Uber, would Uber have worked in a web-based approach rather than an app? Can you get the same functionality?
You can on a web, because the intelligence sits on servers in the back end. I don't know how exactly what Uber's ecosystem looks like, but if I think logically, it is possible to do it via a web as well, because you're basically connecting into a platform technology that provides you the location-based functionality that Uber has. So taking your information when you're accessing it via a web and locating you, just like how perhaps when you go onto Google Maps, you can still have most of the functionality, maybe perhaps from location A to B, because that really then needs an app. Then you'll need to, with the GPS functionality, that may need an app, but let's say 70% or 80% of the functionalities would be available on the web. So I can't really answer it fully.
Okay, and that would be a much cheaper approach.
Yeah, the web would definitely be a much cheaper approach, and perhaps start with, like I said, start with a web and see what you can do as much as you can on the web. Then ultimately, if there are features that can only be done in the app space, and then decide how you're going to push the users to download the app. Because if you can do 80% of the things on the web, that means, and they're using it, that means they are really engaged with it and it works and they like it. And then the next step for them to download an app to ultimately use the 100% of the features would be a very low barrier.
Great, thank you so much.
Any other questions before I move on?
Wei-Ling, it's Chris here. Maybe just to just remind me that with regards to Paul Chaplin's question around how do you convert social media interests into leads, into revenue. Did we cover that whole point?
No, we haven't covered that whole point, Cobus, but thanks for bringing it up. So I think it's a question that I think most might be interested in. Let me address it now.
Can I just maybe provide a bit of context to that as well? And I must say, I'm looking at the comments on the right-hand side, and it's of interest to me who are the people that are getting excited. People like Justin Scott and Alistair Ewell and Deveshni Cullen, that and it's tongue-in-cheek, guys. You know, I think I relate much more to Paul, who makes furniture, and I run a chamber. You know, so all of this technology, etc., is really enabling my business. It's not the core of my business. And you know, for me, you know, that's a big mental block about just looking at this presentation today. You know, the extent of diversion from, you know, what is supposed to be my core business offering, and whether I get sucked into that and it doesn't really drive business growth and me fulfilling the service or the product that I'm actually trying to deliver. So just to add a bit of context to Paul's question there. Thanks, Wei-Ling.
Okay. No, thank you, Cobus. I think that's very valuable insights. Look, every business is different. And I think when you're saying, Cobus, like Paul's in the furniture business and so forth, I think it's about content. I see it as content in that nature of business, and content that people would love to see on how you make your products that you do. That is, you know, in the traditional sense, and I think that's really where, and Paul probably can share a bit more about maybe what his video was about, to really get a more deeper insights in what people was watching, and then we can take it from there. But I think digital, yes, you're right, is an enabler, and I believe it will help you reach people that you may not have traditionally been able to reach, and that's really what you should see digital as in your case, Cobus. It's not the core of your business, and I understand that, but utilizing the digital tools available to you, I believe it will help you reach customers that you might not even think they were interested in the first place, and that's the power of digital, and that's what I believe we can explore and see what part of digital is required for a business today versus tomorrow versus the day after. I think that's how we should view this thing. Paul, I see your hand is up. Paul? Might be doing time because I don't think we can hear you. Okay. All right, Paul, if you can give us your question or comment on the side, then we'll address it. I think in the meanwhile, I'm going to move on to the next slide. The next one, we're looking at e-commerce, right? So not all website needs to have an e-commerce. I want to put that comment up front first. It really depends on the nature of your business. Like I'm in consulting. I'm not going to have an e-com on my site, although I can. A lot of the smaller consulting businesses are putting themselves onto e-commerce in the sense that people can buy time or people can buy a package. But it really depends on where you want to take your business to have that. And here with the different e-commerce platforms, you can see Shopify. I'm sure most of you know Shopify. They've grown significantly over the years. And then they are like the Wix of the world. When it comes to e-commerce, they make it super simple for you to set up a shop and off you go within a week or less. Then you have Equid. Before I move on to Equid, let me do WooCommerce and OpenCart. WooCommerce is part of WordPress, and you need to have a bit of developer background, or you need to know what you're doing when it comes to WooCommerce. So it's what we call an open source platform. Same with OpenCart. It's an open source platform, and you can literally customize anything on this. You can make it look like anything you want. But you do need to know what you're doing. You do need to know a bit of coding behind WooCommerce and OpenCart, but they are both extremely powerful as well, just because you have full control on these two e-commerce platforms. Now let me move on to Ecwid. Ecwid is a combination of Shopify, WooCommerce, and OpenCart. It's got the ability to, drag and drop, or just do a very simply a click to integrate with different apps, set up your settings and configurations on Ecwid, and also have the ability to code if that's what you choose to. Still have the flexibility to be able to customize the store to your needs. So I personally love Ecwid in the sense that it gives me that freedom, and yet has taken away 70% or 60% or 60 to 70% of the coding requirements of the platform. And it's very well documented. Just like Shopper, all of these are very well documented. But Ecwid, in the sense, it documents it so that even me as a non-developer, non-coder, can easily understand and set up a shop fairly quickly for a client of mine. I see, so I'm done with e-commerce on this slide. Does the group have anything to share on this particular one? Okay, so let's move to the next one. I'm going to try and fast track a bit. I've got a couple of, we've got quite a few of these to go through, so I'm going to try and speed through it, and then we can have a much longer save some time for the conversations afterwards. So this one's rapid prototyping. So we talked about mobile first, designing for mobile first, whether it's a web or an app. These two tools are fantastic for that. So mockups, you can drag and drop and create a frame. So like, you draw a block, here's the page, and on the block you want to have other blocks which represents buttons, or here's where I'm going to put an image, this is where I'm going to put content, this is where I'm going to put a form. So it really helps you very quickly to make an illustration of what you see in your mind. So mockup is very much just the lines, the blocks and the circles, no pretty imagery. So it's very, very much done. And then you come to InVision. InVision is a fantastic tool where you want to test out your design prototypes. So these are not live prototypes. And then you can actually create front end, like say, screenshots of your website or your app. And then you upload it onto InVision, and then you can create links. It gives you the illusion. You click the button. If I click this button, it takes me to the second page. If you click that button, it takes me to another page. So it gives you that view or test out that navigation for the end users. So these two tools are, and they all have free versions. So they're very, very nice to use when it comes to rapid prototyping. And you can share that with a lot of people, and people can give comments so that you do a couple of iterations before you actually go live. So I'm putting social. Actually, sorry, I think the slides has gone a little. No, it's right. Sorry. So I had a few versions of this. So if you look at social media, I've picked out these 5 as the common ones at this point. So I'm not going into TikTok and Snapchat. It's just they don't have a really big base at the moment in South Africa, and they're much more complex to get on. But these are more the common ones: your Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and LinkedIn. I think I don't need to explain what they are. I think all of you kind of like know what they're about. But very quickly, like I said, Twitter is in the moment. Very good event when you want to have a conversation in the moment. Then you have Facebook, where you can post information. It doesn't really have to be in real time, although they do have live video these days. Same with Twitter for Facebook. Then you have Instagram. It's all about pictures. So you got to there's these fancy tools where you create these really nice Instagram GIFs or Instagram grids and things like that. So that's on Instagram. You've got to be quite comfortable with some of these, creating some of these content on Instagram. YouTube is an interesting one. If you're into video, definitely one for you. And what's interesting about YouTube is how people are using it. I want to share an example on how in Asia they are using it to sell products. So they've taken influencers to the next level. They actually brands recruit. You know, in the traditional sense, there is telesales in the past on TV where infomercials is a thing. They've now taken infomercials and changed it up for the YouTube space. So, for example, you can actually have a conversation with someone who's live on YouTube right now, selling a makeup or selling a lipstick, and then you tell them, my skin tone is Asian or fairer or darker. Can you try a color that matches that? And they'll actually do it all the time. They'll change up the people and then do that color and then put it on themselves so that you can see in real time of that lipstick color, whether you want to buy it or not. So it's a great instant way of doing instant gratification and taking infomercials into the socials, into the digital era, and into the YouTube space, and still being engaging in real time. It has worked phenomenally in the Asia space. It's one of the biggest growing market when it comes to marketing on YouTube. And then they've not, I mean, traditionally you would do the 6-second reels and things like that. In Asia, they're moving beyond that and really getting into, you know, having their own channels and being engaging and using their own salespeople in that sense. And then you have LinkedIn, which is the B2B space. It's really about thought leadership and putting yourself out there, or your vision and your ambition, and you see your industry playing out on the LinkedIn space, and connecting with like-minded peers in that front. All of these social media channels is about content. The channel itself is but a means to you engaging with your consumers through content. So here I want to deep dive a little bit into how to create content and what are things of consideration when you create content. So when it comes to content, there are 4 main pillars to which, you know, content fall into. You're looking at educating your customers. You're looking at entertaining your customers, inspiring your customers, and convincing your customers. And then underneath, I put some examples of the type of content that can achieve that when you're in the social media space. White papers or reports or infographics, things like that. That would be education. Entertaining, you want to do competitions, your quizzes, you know, you do basically gamification as entertainment. And then you have you want to inspire people, so you're using testimonials, you're using forums, you're building a community, you get you know, influencers or celebrities to endorse your products. And then lastly, you want to convince them. And here, this is all about content around your features. You know, how can you help them? What can your product or service achieve for the end user? You know, it's going to increase their productivity. It's going to lower your costs. It's going to help you reach more people, etc. So that's really the convincing part. And how do we move? So this all fits into a quadrant here. Sorry, let me just put this bigger so everyone can see. This quadrant, I always use this quadrant as a Bible. So ultimately, you want to move. So it doesn't matter where you start, but where you want to end up is end up in the inspiration quadrant, because that then starts moving people into the, from the customer perspective, you're in the realm of loyalty and advocacy. That's in the inspire quadrant. So here in Inspire, you want celebrity endorsements, the reviews, the community forums, you know, at events. So events trades between convince and inspire. And And then if you look at all of these different types of contents, it just gives you an idea. Obviously, you're not limited to these, but it gives you a good starting point on the type of content that and the outcome or the emotional connection you can create for your customers by using some of these types of content that you can create. So on the left, right, the most left-hand side, you'll see that educate and convince is very rational. So all of these contents is on the rational level. Versus when you start moving up, you're going into the emotional space, and that's ultimately where you want to be, because you can slowly change, evolve your content so it slowly becomes from rational to emotional. And then you have, I think this also talks back to Patricia, when your comment around, comparisons of, we don't want to defame our customers and things like that. So we're going, and I'm saying that let's use facts to help us in that realm. So you go, again, that is, you start off with rational and then you start moving into the emotional. So slowly you are going to move away from comparing. But then as people are more, know your brand better, has interacted with you more, you can slowly move into the emotional realm as well and evolve the type of content that you use for engaging your customers. And then on the top, you'll see awareness to purchase. So again, entertain and educate. Videos, infographics, that's all awareness. So people get to know you and what you're about, you give a bit of insights, and then moving towards the right, you're looking at convincing and inspiring them, because that's where they're going to purchase. So this quadrant really gives you a nice starting point where you don't know. And a lot of clients I've dealt with, like, what content do I do? And this quadrant really helps just to give them that, provoke some thought from my clients to say, okay, this is where I am now, and this is the route I'm going to take to get to the inspire quadrant. So that's the part of social media and content. I'm going to give a quick 5 minutes to see if there's any questions around that before I quickly hop on to the next category. Anybody have any questions? Okay. All right, so if there's no question, let me move on swiftly. The next one is, have you ever seen, I'm sure everyone's seen, like, on social media, wow, this person, like, does this person ever work? Because he or she is constantly on social media, constantly posting, constantly having something to do. Seems like this person's always up to date with the latest news and etc. They don't, actually. These are some of what I've listed here are some and help you automate that area. So Hootsuite is a common one that most people know what it is. So basically you can schedule your posts for future. So you can probably do a whole month's worth of social media posts, and then Hootsuite will post it automatically for you as you have scheduled them. Co-schedule is another one similar to Hootsuite, but co-schedule is a bit more on steroids. It helps you with blogging as well. And it has the ability to have approval processes, goes through different checks, and then you can do a bit of automation in that front as well when it comes to co-schedule. So, but co-schedule is a more pricey platform, but it is a very powerful platform to use, whereas Suite is more, it's also powerful, but it does have a free version, which allows you to kickstart the whole planning in advance for social media tool. And then you go into SumAll. SumAll is a fantastic tool. I love it because as a busy entrepreneur, you're not going to have the time to check your analytics of your social media every minute of the day. What SumAll does is sends you an email in the morning, and it tells you how many people how many new followers do you have on which channels, and then how many likes did you get. So it gives you a quick snapshot of the state of your social media channels in your email, in your mailbox every morning. And then you have Drum Up and Crowdfire. Two of my personal favorite. So I can look at, it will source the news or the content or the articles or the blogs of the relevant topics that I would like the brand to be associated to, and then schedule that automatically into my social media feeds. Either it's immediate or later. So these two tools really help with me keeping up my image on saying that, you know, this is, I know what's happening and I'm sharing articles and knowledge and insights you'll be able to get. So that really helps to see how your campaign is performing as well with this insights. So here you want to tailor your brand to your customers. We talked about how to automate some of your marketing. MailChimp, as I said, is the common one that we know today. And it's become quite powerful in the sense that it added a lot of features. You can build a landing page now. You can integrate your social media. You can integrate your e-com into MailChimp. But MailChimp is still relatively pricing in that sense. So the starting is what, $9, $10 for 500 contacts. So they charge by contact. So it doesn't matter how many emails you send to that one, to a contact, they charge you per contact. It depends on the nature of your business, because some people might have a lot of contacts, and then you don't send enough emailers to those contacts to justify for the price of the platform that you're paying for. So in that context, I would say Sendinblue is a really good other platform, which I have found recently, is that they charge, I think it's also $10 or $15 as a starting, and then you get unlimited number of contacts that you have in your database. They charge you by the number of sends. So for starting, it's 40,000 sends per month that you can do. So it's, if you compare MailChimp and Sendinblue as an emailer platform, the same, but it's just the costing model is different. One is by contact and one is by the number of sends. So if you have a large base and then you don't send as often, Sendinblue might be more cost effective for you versus MailChimp. If you want to send more sends but you have a smaller base, that's probably more cost effective for you. And both of them can do automation. Automation in the sense that, you know, if you're doing, let's say B2B sales as an example, or actually B2C as well. You sent an email to someone and this person hasn't clicked on the mail or opened the mail in 5 days. Send this email to them to encourage them to open and click, or the next step. So you can build in a lot of those automations in there. ActiveCampaign I put in here. Now, ActiveCampaign is basically MailChimp on steroids. It's pricey. It starts around, if I'm not mistaken, I think it's $49 per month. But it's literally automation. It can integrate, like if someone clicks on social media, send them an email and then SMS, and then if they come back to the website and they did something, then do that and do lead scoring, and lead management, lead nurturing. So it has so much more features from automation perspective that eliminates a lot of the manual processes that you would need to do. If we go into analytics, so we briefly touched on this earlier as well. So Google Analytics is a non-negotiable, in my opinion, when you have a website. Or if you have an app, then it's Firefox. And I think with an app, there are other analytics that are also good for an app. So not necessarily using Google Analytics, but from a website, Google Analytics is fantastic. They've released a lot of new features in the free version where you can actually customize the journey, e-com journey in Google Analytics to suit your journey so that you can better see the analytics and trending on that. You can build customized dashboards to showcase the analytics on how you want to see it. But for most of us, we just use standard dashboards and things like that. But what would be useful is coupling it with the GA Insights on the right that you can see on the logo there. You can customize that the information on Google Analytics can be sent to your mailbox on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis. And then you can customize the type of data you would like to see. So you can see daily, or you can see a roll-up, you can see advertising, you can see stats, traffic, source, analytics, so forth. So that's quite useful in that sense when you want it more automated to be sent to you rather than you trying to access another platform to see the information. And then lastly, you have DataBox, my personal favorite. They have a free version as well, which is great. It's basically dashboards. So you can connect your social media, your advertising platform, your CRM platform, your website analytics, your app analytics, all sorts of different apps that are available, even your MailChimp, all of that. And then you can create dashboards. So you can actually design your own dashboard, which will be updated in real time. Like, I don't know if anyone has seen like these command centers, which shows you all the data from everything that's happening. DataBox is basically that in the marketing sense, where you can see salespeople, sales activities in real time. You can see events activities in real time. You can see campaign activities in real time, or even you can see business performances in real time, which is really, really useful. And so you can do away with these PowerPoint reports that you might send or put together for various different stakeholders in the business. So here from CRM, so where do we store our customer data? So here you have Airtable. There's a lot. So what I've picked out is ones that I've used that I know is quite simple to use, that is with the least learning curve. So Airtable is basically Excel on steroids, but the steroids in the sense that it works just like Excel, and what happens is you can then and create beautiful visualization of a pie chart or a bar chart without having to go through the pain of Excel trying to set it up and do all the different settings. It will automatically do a lot of those for you and create a very simple dashboard to showcase some of the information that you'd like to see from database collected. And then HubSpot is literally like a proper CRM with a customer service, with marketing. But it builds such a great profile from like just normal data to their behavioral data they store as well. It's a fantastic tool where sales can input their information, customer service can input their information. Their CRM is free forever. It's unlimited. You can put as many data you want in there. How they make revenue is obviously when you want to activate marketing and the customer service modules, then the cost starts coming through. But as a normal CRM, it's really, really powerful and very easy to use. Then you have Insightly. Insightly is a great tool when you do B2B sales. Think of it as Salesforce.com alternative and much cheaper alternative to that. So you can actually have all your customers, all your leads, or prospects, customers listed here. And if you have a sales team who's looking after that, you can see which sales cycle, which life cycle are they at, and you can give that. So basically, you have a real-time sales view of how sales are performing in your business. You don't need to be a designer. I'm not a designer, but these tools has made a huge difference to my life. Creative Market. It's a place where you can buy templates, beautiful templates, from websites to banners to mock-ups of coffee cups. And then they cost $5, $10. It's a fantastic tool. And then you can ask to tweak. So instead of a designer, say $100, you're paying them $10 to do something because you already have the template that you've bought for $5 off Creative Market. Canva, also pretty popular. I'm sure some of you know of it. They have a lot of templates, they have a lot of imagery, and you can drag and drop and make a social media post in 5 minutes. It's that simple. Or a A5 brochure flyer, or a brochure, A4 4-page brochure. You no longer need InDesign or Illustrator or Photoshop or any other tools, but using Canva, everything online. It has an app on the phone as well, which allows you to make Instagram posts or Facebook posts or Twitter, whichever it is, and have that then posted instantaneously onto those channels. The last one that you see there, it's called Mojo. It's only an app on the phone. Fantastic tool for Instagram, my new favorite app, Mojo. It has templates, which allows you to design stories. So all these stories on Facebook or Instagram stories that you see, this tool helps you make that, create those tools in real time, and then have it posted in there. So it moves, it's like a video, it's a GIF, and then all sorts of fonts and pictures and things like that, which is really quite fun. I mean, I've been turning out stories so much quicker with this tool and straight from my phone. I don't need to open my laptop anymore. So this one, a company. I just want to ask, who knows a company? Who has ever used a company? Just a quick poll. Okay, Leon, no idea. Anybody else? So it's a fantastic tool. How many of you have gone to meetings or set up meetings, and you're not quite sure, and you have to go through extensive Googling to try to stalk someone on who you're a potential prospect customer? You usually go to Google, you'll stalk them, you go to their LinkedIn, try to find if they have a LinkedIn profile, where they've been, what they're about, what they've been up to lately. That's usually the case when I go see a client before I meet a client, so at least I know who I'm meeting and what their background is. So a company, what it does is it actually LinkedIn, all your profiles, what it does is in that morning it sends you an email of the people of the meetings that you're meeting on, that you're going to be meeting with that day, right? So what is their latest press releases? What have they been talking about? Where they've been? Who they're associated with? So you don't have to do that yourself anymore. It lands in your mailbox in the morning. So it just makes life so much easier that you don't have to spend time, well, maybe stalking. Lianka's like stalking too. Not exactly, only what's publicly available. So this has been a fantastic tool for me before I go and meet my clients. And yeah, like I said, I'm a big advocate for no emailing, and I'm a big for no emailing and chatting. So Slack, again, more of the mainstream tool. Slack, I love Slack. It has the ability to integrate with so many tools. So a lot of things I can just do on Slack. I don't even need to open other apps, and I can add tasks, I can assign tasks, I can give approvals, I can interact with even people outside of my organization. I can create different workspaces, and it's who is in those workspaces and have real-time chat, and it's all stored in one place. It's better. I know a lot of us might be using WhatsApp, but it's better than WhatsApp in the sense that you can search better, you can categorize better. It's just easier from an admin perspective. So and again, it's a free tool. I know the biggest global agencies in the world are using Slack, and it just fast tracks, makes everyone so productive, and not having to wait for someone to read an email. Workplace and Teams, I'm sure some of you might have heard it. These are more for corporates. It's not that it's not affordable for entrepreneurs. It's better utilized in an organization where you have a lot of employees. So you can't like your own corporate community kind of thing. So Workplace is trying to obviously get into the realm of Teams, and there's Yammer in the Microsoft space as well. I think Yammer not so popular anymore, but Workplace is very similar to that. So the Facebook concept in a work environment, a ring-fenced environment, so it's not public, it's only within your workplace. And then Teams. Teams is a fantastic tool. I love Teams in the sense that I can connect other apps. I can do whiteboarding. It's one click to join a meeting. It's a great collaboration tool as well. But again, if you're a team of 5, I would recommend Slack and not Teams, although Teams is still relatively powerful. So we touched on project management. So instant collaboration, I've seen some of you know Monday, there's Trello, there's Asana. My personal favorite is Asana. Monday is also good, but it's very pricey. I just, as an entrepreneur, I can't afford Monday, but the features are great. Very easy, kind of like Excel kind of format. And then it's a one click to say done or not done, and assign tasks and manage people's time and etc. So Monday is very powerful in that sense. For salespeople and for creative agencies, it's actually the most efficient. And then if you look at Trello, it's a card system. It's great if you know what you're doing on Trello, and because you can customize it. Again, it's relatively open, and if you know what you're doing, you can really use it to its full potential. It's a great tool. Especially for developers, actually. When you do Scrum or stand up dev cycles and things like that, it's great. And then you have Asana, which is a combination. It's a hybrid of the both. That's why I love it so much, is that it has the card system, it has the table system, it has the assigning, you can assign tasks, you can move things around. It has the, you can attach files, you can get approvals, and then you can also have apps which you can integrate with other apps, which allows you to extend the power of Asana. And it's on the web, on the app. It's got an app version, which is also very easy to use. So Asana for me is a great one. I mean, there's plenty of others. There's Basecamp. There is all sorts of other project management tools. So again, it's and then lastly, you don't need an engineer, you don't need a developer. This is great, these tools. If you have, like for example, if you have a missed call, put that into my to-do list 30 minutes later, or when there is an open gap in my calendar. If this, then that does that type of thing very, very well. So anything that happens on your phone or any more personal kind of automation for your life, that would be, if this, then that is great. Like if someone has posted a post with the hashtag X, then repost it on my handle, or send me an email notification that has happened. So that's really nice for that. You have Zapier and Integromat. Zapier is for literally, this is no code. Integromat is a bit more for the techies. You still have to kind of like know what you're doing, a little bit of code knowledge to be able to use Integromat. So what these two does is basically connecting two apps that would never talk to each other to talk to each other. So for example, somebody goes to my website, buys item A. Once that item A is bought and checked out, send an email to my logistic company to send it to X address, then send to my customer care so they can give follow-up, and then write this into my CRM, and then send an email somewhere. So it's really automating your business processes and allowing apps to talk to each other, which normally don't talk to each other. I know I've raced through this, but there was quite a bit of apps to go through. So that's the end of the apps section. So I'm going to open the floor up to everyone else now. I hope I didn't put everybody to sleep.
Benisha says definitely not, Wailing. Everybody's still here. So if anybody has a question, comment.
Any comments? Anything anyone would like to share?
Wei Ling, maybe you can take off your slides so that you can see the comments as well. I see Hilda has asked you, as a guest house, which apps is preferable. Can you see them now?
Yes, I can. As a guest house, which app is preferable? I personally have, I've got a little Airbnb that I run, and I have it on mostly Airbnb, and I have it on booking.com. But my personal favorite is, if you have to use one of these platforms, I would probably say Airbnb in a sense, because booking.com does take a very high percentage. I think TripAdvisor also has a percentage to it. I know there's Agoda. So these are all existing app platforms that you can use. But I think if you have your own website and you have your own Facebook page, like for example, my little Airbnb, I actually have a Facebook page, which I post like things to do around the place, what is the view of today, and run promotions on new partners. And believe it or not, I spend probably only 200 rands a month in advertising on Facebook, and I'm pretty much booked out 2 to 3 weeks of the month with no effort. So I think those are the things that you can definitely look at for a guest house. If not a website, I think a Facebook page might help, and be part and join a lot of the holiday groups. So I've joined groups like in holiday in, there's a KZN one. So because my little Airbnb is actually in, so I can relate to all of you. And then, holiday accommodation in KZN. There's this, what else? There's ones with South African like nationally. There's a lot of this in KZN. There's one in Flanga. So you can just really search on some of the groups. And then when you scroll through them, it's not about advertising. It's that you can look at people actually post and comment to say, I'm looking for accommodation for 2 for this date. Can anybody help? And then you just give comments, and then you give links to your guest house on that. And then you get people who engage and may just come and book for your guest house. Oh, Lianka, good question. Physio practice. I don't think it's difficult. I think, again, it's a field where content is king in your area. Knowledge is king. A lot of people don't understand the importance of physio. I think so. You have a good opportunity right now, and I'm speaking from my personal experience, is that I had a horrible, because of COVID, I've been on the laptop for way too many hours than I'm supposed to. And I literally had a stiff shoulder and neck weight to the point where I couldn't even sleep. And then I didn't know that the physio was going to be my savior in that. But it's about being educated. And after being educated about the benefits of going to a physio and the the concept of maintenance of a physio means for people who actually sit in front of the laptop for long hours, it's actually very, very powerful. So it's about sharing your knowledge and the benefits and showcasing your expertise in the physiotherapy world. And that's how you're going to convince or get new customers. And digitizing it in a sense that finding or creating platforms for yourself for your expertise and your knowledge, and opening that line of communication with users. I hope that helps to give you some sights on the physio practice realm. Let's see, Patricia, what is the best security app or software to use? IT security and website security. I think the first one is to make sure that your website is, first of all, compliant. Before we talk about security, is it compliant to POPI and GDPR and all of those things? And then from a security perspective, make sure that your website, whoever you're hosting it with, scrutinize where are they hosting, how are they hosting, what security do they have in their data centers on where your website is being hosted. Make sure that your URL is HTTPS and not HTTP, because HTTP is not secure enough. I'm not too techie, so I am throwing out a little some of the jargons that I can't really explain in detail, but I do know they are critical key things to ask when you do speak to these hosting companies or when you evaluate who you're going to go with on hosting your app or your website. Your SSL certificate is another key thing. So, for example, I usually use Wix. So I know that their data center has firewalls and they regularly check up. They have a whole IT team which makes sure attacks happen. They have their own security applications in their data centers where all the websites are hosted. And if there is a security breach, they immediately raise a flag to you as the owner of a website to say, okay, there's a security breach. This is what you should be doing. This is where we see the security breach. So you can actually address that. So I'm just going up the chat. So Vanusha, you have a question. I'm using free MailChimp. Would it be recommended to use the paid option? It really depends, Vanusha. How often do you send emails to your base? How many people do you have in your base? You need to see whether you can get your return on investment when you go the paid option. Any other? I'm just scrolling up. If you can help with, maybe just bring it to the top if there's questions or, you know.
No, just maybe Wei-Ling, Bali, if you'll allow me. I'm also just aware of the time, so just two very quick observations. One of the things that I do find is that obviously with the nature of our business, we do pay for MailChimp, and with the exchange rate going where it is, and as being invoiced in dollars, it does become quite a, these type of applications. We also, one of the big tools that we use is SurveyMonkey, and these type of solutions do tend to become quite expensive. And now lately we had to, obviously we had to join Zoom as well. So, just from a digital stack point of view, really, there are three considerable cost components in there. And that's probably just an observation, rather than a question. I think the question for me relates to, this is quite intimidating, the presentation this morning. But in trying to translate my feeling of being intimidated is that surely there will be a consolidation in the market with regards to, what are the type of mainstream business applications that you will have to use, and then obviously leaving some of the niche, to the smaller and probably more niche businesses and operators. Maybe just your view on those?
Sure. Thanks for the question, Chris. I think that's where I agree with you. I think at some stage consolidation may happen, but at this point, I'm not seeing that as much. And even it's like there's so many apps providers or platform owners out there that just keeps coming up with new apps. There's very little vendors who's looking at or businesses looking at how do we consolidate them. It's going to be difficult to consolidate them actually. So that is to be seen because they're all owned by different companies unless we do see the big players starting to buy the smaller app players. But there's pros and cons to that, because the price might go up, and then innovation may not be as quick, because big companies move very slow. But then what I do see is, like, and this is a space that I play in, and there's more and more of, like, say, my type of consultancy companies in the market, is that, helping businesses to not be overwhelmed. It's actually not that scary. Yes, there's thousands and thousands and millions of apps, but understanding the apps that is available in the market, and how do you string that up for the different unique businesses. Like you said, some of the apps are quite expensive and may not suit your business at this point in time. So what are the alternatives by not affecting your business processes? How do we swap them out? With what do we swap them out? So, for example, if MailChimp is becoming quite expensive, you could look at, maybe if it's about the number of sends and not about the number of contacts, then send in blue might be an option, or Google Gmail, is an option as well. SurveyMonkey is too expensive. You could look at maybe a Google Form, which is a free tool. Might not be as automated or intelligent as SurveyMonkey, but depends on how you use SurveyMonkey. Perhaps an alternative could be a Google Form. So I think from a consolidation perspective, to answer your question, is that right now, I think the dependency is still on consultants or people with the knowledge who is in the space, who constantly looks out for new apps and compares them and categorizes them into different areas to come in and help to debunk the myth or uncomplicate some of the overwhelming elements of the space that a company may have. I hope that answers your question, Kobus.
Kobus says, yep, Wei-Ling, thank you so much. Looking at the time, I think we'll just have to wrap it up here. I'd like to thank everyone. I haven't seen this great engagement amongst participants ever since we started. When there was a question, I think another delegate stepped in and answered it. So that was amazing to see. And Justin, I think I'm also going to be joining that team. I think after today's jargon, yeah, there's a lot I do not know about the digital industry. Thank you so much, Wei-Ling. Thank you so much to the Entrepreneur of the Decade delegates. Thank you so much to our guests. Thank you so much, Kobus, for always being here to support. Hi, Sakile. Thank you very much. And I'd just like to say a couple of things before we close. Kobus?
Excellent. You conclude the logistics, and then I'll just make a final quick comment there. Thanks, Mbali.
No problem. Can I just quickly give you guys some quick comments? So I just wanted to say to everyone, especially the guests and participants, that the slides and recordings for all 4 sessions that we've heard will be available tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. and I'll send them to you as well, Sakile, in case I missed anyone from the guests. You can just forward them. And also to say to the participants, the Entrepreneur of the Decade, the quiz is already for session 4, so you can go ahead and complete it after this. But I'm giving you up until Monday because I know some of you are very busy and the time is already no longer on our side. You have to rush somewhere to complete the quiz. So once everybody has done all 4 quizzes, we will then consolidate and we will be able to release your e-badges by Friday next week, 16th October, because I want to catch up as well with people who couldn't come through today for the session so that I give them time to go through the recording and to complete their quiz if they're happy and to assist them. Kobus?
Mbali, thanks so much. Just very quick comment from my side. I think it's just appropriate, since the Masterclass component was the primary component of the Years of the Decade celebratory program. First of all, you and Miranda from GIBS all of the presenters, and Wayne Lee, especially for you for today's session. I think, you know, with a lot of hesitation, we entered into this partnership, collaboration around masterclasses. And unfortunately, it was forced upon us by the pandemic, and I think it worked exceptionally well from a, a convenience point of view, and being able to access this for 2 hours in the comfort of being able to attend to our businesses but still educating ourselves. I think it was a huge success, Bali. I'll extend those to Miranda as well, but for you especially, being the face and the interface with our entrepreneurs of the decade. Thanks for all your hard work in the background, and Sakile for your facilitation as well. And then just a reminder to all of the entrepreneurs, also the delegates, and I think that's probably just another comment, is that I think it worked exceptionally well to be able to invite some of our stakeholders and their network into this session that is not limited to the 20 entrepreneurs only. So thanks to all of those people that have joined and made up the numbers to 45 per session. I think that worked very well. So just a reminder then that we're continuing with the development together with group of our digital home. Wei Li, you'll know, Ling, you will be happy to hear that that's part of our digital stack. So we're developing a digital home for our entrepreneur program called theentrepreneur.net.co.za. So that's under development at the moment. We're still continuing doing the marketing videos for each one of your businesses, and I'm sure, Sakila, I've got a meeting with Marianne now at 11:30 just to catch up on how those are going. Looking forward to seeing some of those. And then obviously the final event on the 29th of October that will be presented in collaboration with GIBS again, with some of the entrepreneurs that form part of their network. And just a reminder that that will be a public event. So please assist the Chamber in promoting the credibility of this program by making sure that we extend that invitation across our network. I attended the Herman Mashaba guest lecture with the of Technology on Tuesday night, and they would. And I would like to see if we can beat those. So please, if we can. Just promote that. It helps us with the credibility of it. Thanks very much.
Thank you so much, Cobus. I see a comment from Wei Ling.
Wei Ling, I would definitely take you up.
That's amazing. I saw a lot of collabs today on the chat box. It was amazing. So thank you so much to everyone. I'd leave it here for today. And anything else, please do email me, call me, and I'll be happy to assist. And thank you so much, Wei Ling, for today. Thank you very much. And thank you, Lianka. We really had fun for all the shared activities you had with us.